They played really well since then. They're without Turner tonight, but in general, what has stood out to you about the way they played over since then?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, one is I think they continue to get better defensively. They've got good defenders, Nemhard and Matherin. Obviously, Turner's not playing, but his ability to protect the rim. Shepard, guys coming off the bench, physical Siakam, and then obviously their pace of play and the tempo and the speed at which they play with, in the full court and transition, and also in the half court.
And I want to ask you one thing about your offense. Your offense obviously has played very well overall, especially the three-point stats and the way you guys share the ball. So everything stands out except free throws and free throw attempts. Can it be both? Can it be all? Can you shoot this many threes and then also not get to the line? You talked about how you guys aren't great at finishing. What's your messaging to the team when you talk about free throws and free throw attempts?
Yeah, I mean, it's like half your offensive rating is going to be, what you basically shoot on the shots you take, right? And then the other part of that is, how well you take care of the ball, the turnovers, the free throw line, and then the offensive rebounding, and for us, we haven't necessarily generated a lot of attacks or shots at the rim.
Right.
I don't think it's because we're not getting there. I thought early in the year there were times that we made, tough decisions where shot blockers were there. We're trying to shoot over or around, and those are hard finishes for us. And sometimes when we've gotten teams in rotation, we've been able to spray the ball out, and we've encouraged the guys to take shots that are there when we do that. So I'm looking at certainly the rim attempts and getting to the paint. That's what's really going to get you fouled, when you get there. And our team, it's not been a strength, but we've been okay offensively because I think we've generated pretty good shots and we've moved and shared the basketball. But about 80% of free throws are going to take place in the restricted area, whether it's offensive rebounds or on drives. And if you're fortunate enough, like Zach had a couple, where he kind of got into the lane, he shot faked and he drew 2 fouls, on pump fakes. But, if you're not necessarily getting those, the way to get it is by, getting to the basket, getting to the rim, creating contact and being able to finish there. Sometimes when we've had a hard time finishing, I think that's brought down, some of our offense rating. So clearly I'd like for us to get there more, but sometimes, players over their career, that's kind of what they do. They've been high volume free throw shooters. Zach does, I think, a good job because of athleticism, speed, explosiveness at the basket. DeMar did a great job last year. It's just kind of who he was. It wasn't like, he reinvented himself here. It's just who he's been throughout his career. And there's certain guys in the league that just get fouled a lot. They know how to get fouled. They know how to do it. And I think we can be better at that and help some of our other guys understand when the defense is in a vulnerable spot and try to create some fouls.
Hey, Billy, the two injured guys, Torrey and Io, were anything different with any of those two?
Yeah, so Torrey's still, he's getting better. It's just going to be slow because it's a nerve.
Are you saying he just got, is it like a pitch nerve? What exactly?
No, what happened was, I'm trying to screw this word up, a peroneal nerve on the side of your leg.
Right.
He got hit there, and I think when he got hit there, that nerve is not firing the muscle.
Okay. Still.
It is, but not well enough for him to go out there and play. And it's kind of, unfortunately, a slow process. It is getting better. It's just one of those things where the only way you're going to get through it is rest. So Io will start ramping up now. He's kind of get on the treadmill. He's kind of past that hurdle a little bit. I don't necessarily have a game that which he'll be ready, but they'll start ramping him up now to see how he'll handle it. I think I mentioned maybe the last game that, not that he had a setback, but when they were running him, they pulled him back. He's been able to get past that now, which has been good.
So he's able to run.
He's doing that. Yeah, he was on the treadmill yesterday. No, that will be the ramp up. That will start to happen now. So we're hopeful. I think a few more days we'll see how he responds to that. I don't think there's any question when he does come back, he's definitely going to be on some type of minute restriction. I'm not sure what the number will be yet, but he'll be on a minute restriction. And I do think he's getting closer and closer, in my opinion, to playing.
What were you seeing from him before he obviously went down? I mean, he seemed to be a guy that was kind of emerging as closing for you in a lot of instances, and kind of that two-way guy that I've talked to you about before.
Yeah, I think, in his absence, I think Kobe and Zach and even Josh have done a good job keeping and maintaining tempo and pace. He was clearly by far the best guy moving it up the floor, and he generated a lot of, shots for himself at the rim and others. But I think that really, he was a catalyst, I think, to us trying to play faster. He's been a catalyst to kind of get downhill. I've always I felt like he's a really, really competitive defender. I think you can put him on matchups on the perimeter. He takes
Right.
that on and wants that. But I really felt that, to your point, that as before he got hurt, he was kind of continuing to move in a really positive direction.
And then with Zach and Vooch, I mean, Vooch is cool. His shot from outside is cooled a little bit, but it's kind of, we're getting into the month now where they start talking about all-stars. I mean, do you start petitioning for those two and just, I mean, look at the numbers and look at, what they've done so far?
Yeah, and I've said this before, you get a chance to see those guys play every night, and there's no question in my mind, just based on the way that these guys have performed through whatever it is, 35, 36 games, they have played at an all-star level. I think both of those two guys have, and I think the stats will back it up. What Zach has shot from the three-point line, when he's shot from the field. I think he's taken on a lot of different defensive challenges. He's played both ends of the floor. I think Vooch historically, at least if you look at his numbers, you'd say up to this point in time, I know there's a lot of games left, but he's shot the ball probably at a career rate for him, and he's been an all-star before, so I think there's no question. I feel that those guys should certainly be under consideration to make the all-star game.
For Zach specifically, do you feel like he gets a little bit underrated sometimes just for where he stands in the overall standing of guards in the Eastern Conference?
Well, I think the one thing that's hard, for him is the amount of time that he missed, last year. So it's sometimes, unfortunately, it's out of sight, out of mind, so to speak. But it's been great to see the work that he's put in, coming off that foot injury and then the surgery, and then what he did in the off season, and then be able to kind of pick up, to play at the level he's played at throughout his career. And I think for any player, it's really, really hard when you've had to battle, an injury to be out.
Right.
And last season got cut short for him because of that. But I think when guys are not necessarily out there all the time, it's hard to, you're not really watching them or seeing them or thinking about them. But certainly he has established himself that this is what he's done for a good portion of his career when you look at his numbers.
The reputation with him did impact winning. I think was the reputation. The fact that, and again, I think you guys probably have to sell it and other teams have to see it. The fact that he is a more willing defender now would seem to change the narrative that he was a one-dimensional player, one-sided player. I mean, do you see that his defense, people have to start paying attention to it for the simple fact that it has improved, especially on the ball. He just seems more willing and to take on the tougher assignments.
Yeah, I think with the way our team is, he's definitely done it. And I think the other thing maybe is a little bit unfair for him is when we had Alex and we had Lonzo, those guys were absorbing a lot of those. Now with those guys not being there, we've kind of put that on him, and he's handled it really, really well. And I think he's played both ends, in my opinion,
right,
at a high level.
Best you've seen from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been great. I think he's really been great. He's the one thing I would say about him is every summer when I spend time with him, there's always things that he's trying to look at and where he can get better. And I think everybody kind of evolves and grows at their own pace or their own rate. When I first got here, I think that the way the team was, there was just not a lot of necessarily shot creation on our team, and a lot of it was left up to him. And I think at times he was remarkable, to be quite honest with you, that he shot the ball as well as he did my first year, just because I think he got caught into a lot of late clock situations where he had to take a lot of tough shots, and sometimes the game was really challenging for him. I think the thing with him is he's always been in great shape, and when he's come back off of like setbacks, he gets back really, really quickly. And I do think defensively, he's really, I think he's always had the ability to do it. I do think sometimes when so much was asked of him offensively on a nightly basis, something's going to probably give a little bit.
Yeah.
But, he's, I think, come into this year and has embraced the idea that he's got to play both sides of the ball. And not that he didn't do that, but that's now become a pretty big responsibility for him when you look at some of the matchups he's had. Because listen, if Alex was starting, Alonzo was starting, a lot of times those guys were taking those guys, and not any disrespect to Zach, it's just what they did. But Zach is more than capable, and I think he's done that. He's done a really good job with